The Constitution. How much power does it grant federal government? Enough to regulate interstate trade? This week we take an in-depth look at the Gibbons versus Ogden case on 60 Minutes. Hi, and welcome to 60 Minutes. I'm Dan Rether. Many of you have heard about the Gibbons versus Ogden case recently. Well, tonight we sit down with Chief Justice John Marshall to examine his opinion on the case. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today,
My pleasure.
Mr. Marshall. I'd like to ask you, a lot of people are familiar with this case, but kind of give us just the general overview of the case.
Well, Aaron Ogden received state permission to run his steamboats, while Thomas Gibbons received federal permission to run his steamboats in the same area of river as Ogden.
I see. Now, remind me, what gave Mr. Ogden the belief that his claim would hold validity in your court?
Well, Ogden believed that state permission gave him the exclusive right to the river and that the federal interference was unconstitutional.
I see. Now, did Ogden receive this state grant himself, or was it given to him? How did he receive this state permission?
Well, Robert Fulton, Robert Livingston owned the steamboat monopoly originally. They then passed it to Ogden, therefore he indirectly received the state grant.
Oh, I see. So the state granted Fulton and Livingston permission first, and then they granted that permission to Ogden?
Correct.
I see. And now Mr. Gibbons also believed that his claim held legitimacy. What was his reasoning behind that belief?
Well, he simply believed that the federal government overruled the state government in the trade.
I see. I understand. Now, if my knowledge serves me correctly, this is the first case involving interstate trade that your court has dealt with thus far. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is true, and you'll be excited to know my ruling.
Well, we'll be glad to get to that later. For argument. First of all, Mr. Gibbons, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad that you could make it. Now, it's my understanding that you believed that you had rights to this.
I do have rights to the river. There's no question about it.
Okay, so you have rights to the river.
Yes.
How did you back up this claim in court?
Well, it's under the Commerce Clause. Article 1, Section 8, as I was saying. It states that, let's see, the federal government has the power to regulate all interstate trade, all foreign trade, and trade with Indians.
You have this, what does this support? I mean, you have federal permission, or how did you go about?
I have federal permission. Ogden, on the other hand, state permission.
State permission, Ogden. Now, how emotional is this case for you? What does this make you feel inside?
This river has a lot of economic support, for me, at least. I think Ogden last year had 47 boats going at the same time. That's a lot of trade right there.
It is.
So, having the full permission would allow me just to increase my revenue.
Now, were you surprised at all by Marshall's ruling in this case?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the Supreme Justice, John Marshall, he is a Federalist like myself that believe in a strong central government that does have a government that controls all interstate trade, foreign trade, and trade with Indians.
And so you're saying that this kind of consolidated the power within the national government and
Yes.
backed up the national government's authority over the states?
Yes. The states have, if any, right to control trade with other states. It needs to be with the federal government, and hopefully this ruling will set the tone for all the other rulings and cases that come up concerning interstate trade.
Well, we should hope that it does that, in your case at least, and I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We also tried to catch up with Aaron Ogden earlier this afternoon to see his stance on the issue, but as you can see from the following footage, our attempts were unfruitful. Ready? We're here trying to get an interview with a certain Aaron Ogden about his standpoint on the Gibbons versus Ogden case. Now he's right over there, and we hear he's kind of shy, so we're going to try and get the interview. So let's go. Mr. Ogden, do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
About what?
Well, we understand that you were involved in a certain federal case. Is that true?
What's that?
Oh, Mr. Ogden, we just want your view on some standpoints. Please, Mr. Ogden. It would appear that he doesn't want to talk to us at the moment. He is a bit shy, so we'll see if we can get back to him later on this. Reporting live, Dan Rether, CBS News. As you can see, our attempts to interview Mr. Ogden were quite unsuccessful. However, we do have sources close to Ogden that have relayed to us information about his standpoint. They say that Mr. Ogden wants the public to know that he had a state injunction granting him exclusive rights to transportation within the state of New York along these river systems. And his argument, whenever this exclusive right was challenged, was that the 10th Amendment, which states that states have all power which is reserved to them that is not granted to federal governments. And he argued that this amendment backed up his standpoint because Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution did not exclusively give federal government the right to regulate interstate trade. Now, we will have the outcome for this case when we get back, I'm told, but for right now we're going to send you to a commercial break. Welcome back. While you were on commercial break, we received breaking news that John Marshall, the Supreme Court Justice of the United States, has indeed ruled in favor of a Thomas Gibbons, which does consolidate some power into the national government. Now, as some of you may be able to see, this could have serious ramifications regarding the future of our nation. First of all, this decision by Marshall helps to really solidify the national power found in the Constitution at a national level. Also, this helps by consolidating the power in the national government, form another unity, another step towards unity among the American nation, instead of just a bunch of separate entities of states. However, we will have to wait and see what the ramifications are, but it would appear that it was leading towards unity and a stronger national government. Join us next week as we will be discussing future presidential candidates Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and John McCain. Thank you for coming out. Stay classy, Philadelphia.